Good morning. This is Tom Zawistowski from the We the People Convention, and I'm coming to you with a news bulletin because I am concerned that most of you are unaware that today may be one of the most important days of your and my life. Yesterday, we remembered Pearl Harbor, a day that would live in infamy and resulted in the U.S. getting into World War II, and that became, a devastating effort against the Imperial Japanese and the Nazis in Germany, and it later ended up fighting the Russians, the communist Russians, and literally where hundreds of thousands of Americans died. Today is as important a day, maybe more important, because what's going to happen today by noon is that the fate of our nation, a tipping point is going to be reached where we're either going to remain the United States and a constitutional republic, or we are going to go into something either martial law or civil war. So what do I mean? Well, many of you have heard that Supreme Court Justice Alito moved up the court deadline in a key Pennsylvania case, with the mail-in ballots and things of that nature. He moved it from Wednesday, which is tomorrow, to today. He told Pennsylvania that they had to have their briefs in by 9 a.m. this morning. We're doing this podcast at 8 a.m. They have to have it to the court by 9 a.m. The Supreme Court of the United States is going to decide by noon today whether or not Pennsylvania violated their own state constitution and the U.S. Constitution in the way they ran their election. Meaning, the absentee ballots, the not checking signatures, the ability to cure ballots, all the things they did. Now, let me be clear. This has nothing to do with fraud. This has to do with the Constitution, okay? And you got to understand that. But that's why this is so important. And so why did he move it up? He moved it up because today, December 8th, is the day at which the states appoint their electors to the Electoral College. And Alito recognized that if he had waited till Wednesday, those electors would have already been appointed in Pennsylvania, and undoing that would have become a much bigger problem. So by moving it up to today, December 7th, Tuesday, he is basically now in position to rule on whether or not the way the election was run in Pennsylvania is unconstitutional. Now, if you want an explanation of all of this, it all ties back to the Mark Levin piece that's on the We the People Convention website at wethepeopleconvention.org, where he goes through the constitutional issues. These are no-brainers, okay? I mean it. This is something that basically the Constitution of Pennsylvania does not say anything about the way that they handle these absentee ballots. And the law says, the U.S. Constitution and the state constitution says that only the legislators can decide on how elections are run. But in Pennsylvania, the governor, the attorney general, election officials changed the way the election was run. That's unconstitutional. And Mark Levin explains it much better than I do. But you need to understand how important today is. You need to be by your radio at noon today to find out what happens. Well, why is that so important? Well, I was listening to Jay Sekulow and Jordan Sekulow on their radio show from the ACLJ yesterday. And I know for all of you, you're like, well, where is this coming from? And how come nobody else is reporting it? It's so hard to understand all these legal things. Cases being thrown out, here and there. Are they state cases? Are they federal cases? But I finally got, the key piece here, okay? And here's what the key piece is. Sidney Powell and others have court suits in Wisconsin, right? In Georgia, in Michigan. And what they're saying is that once the Supreme Court rules today, once Alito rules and the court rules today on Pennsylvania, if they rule that they were outside the Constitution by doing what they did in their election, and as Mark Levin explains, there's no doubt about that. This isn't even any stretch of the law. It's real simple. The Constitution says that the legislature in Pennsylvania said, this is what you can do. And they did all kinds of things they weren't allowed to do. It's that simple. But here's the point. As soon as they rule on that, then these other suits are going to be brought to the Supreme Court within hours, because they're still up against this appointment of electors in these states. Okay, you follow me so far? So for instance, in Wisconsin, the laws say that you have to request an absentee ballot in order to vote absentee. You heard in Rudy's press conference a long time ago, weeks ago, that 66,000 people voted absentee in Wisconsin who never requested a ballot. They can't be counted. If they aren't counted, Trump wins Wisconsin. Okay? So that's the case in Michigan. That's the case in Georgia, right? In Georgia, they signed this consent decree that says, oh, you don't have to check signatures for absentee ballots, but you do have to check signatures if you vote in person. That's not, the legislature of Georgia never agreed to that. That's what this case is about. That's why it's so important, because you're going to see this whole thing tip from Trump, losing all these court cases to all of a sudden winning in the Supreme Court. And this is going to be enough to stop Biden from getting 270 electoral votes, which means that it could go to Congress to decide this. All right. So I wanted you to bring this to your attention. I'm asking you, get down on your knees and pray. Just pray all this morning, because your future, the future of your kids and your grandkids, is going to be greatly affected by what happens at noon today. That's just the bottom line. This is one of the most important days in American history, and I know you didn't see it coming, and that's why I'm doing this, this news bulletin, because I want to get it out to you. Now, to keep up on what's going on, go to wethepeopleconvention.org. We've got this. If you go to articles, you can see the evidence of voter fraud from all over the United States. We update this every day, and you can follow these stories. We're trying to cut through the noise just like you are and focus on what's important. After this is done, there's still going to be these lawsuits about hundreds of thousands of ballots being brought into Philadelphia and Milwaukee in the middle of the night. There's still going to be the lawsuits, about dead people voting and people who aren't residents and all that in Georgia and in Arizona. There's like 17 court cases still going on. But this is the tipping point. This is where things start to change, and the fake president-elect who's appointing all his cabinet and members and ambassadors and all that stuff, yeah, they're going to have a real different attitude after today, because it's going to be real clear. If the court votes the way they should, the way Mark Levin, explained they should, then they're going to have a whole different attitude, because it's going to be very clear that they didn't win this election. If that doesn't happen, ladies and gentlemen, then we are going to be in the position that I put out in our ad, where I've asked President Trump that if the courts and the legislatures don't follow the Constitution, he must declare temporary, limited martial law and have the military oversee a new federal election. And if you don't know what that's about, go to wethepeopleconvention.org, watch my interview on One America News, click on the article that talks about our ad in the Washington Times last week, where we required the president to do that. And again, I'm not saying that the president, it's a choice whether he does it or not. He swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. There is no bigger threat to our Constitution than to have election fraud and unconstitutional acts by these key states determine the president. That's the biggest threat to the Constitution. Because if this stands, there is no United States. Joe Biden may be president, but he ain't going to be president of the United States. He's going to be president of something else that doesn't have the rule of law, that doesn't have fair elections, that's some globalist, whatever it is. And our lives are going to change forever and not for the better. Okay? So I hope this update has helped you. We will have it posted on our website at wethepeopleconvention.org so you can share it. And we appreciate you tuning in. I know this is kind of like just dropped on your head. So, thank you for sharing this with other people so they know. But today at noon, the future will be decided. Hopefully, with God's will, it will be decided that we will remain free and that we will have an election that reflects the true will of the people. You're listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski.